to another topic. For this topic, we will be treating CSS buttons, how to style buttons and make it to look prettier and nicer. So yes, we're already taking a look at HTML buttons, but here we'll be styling it specifically with CSS. So CSS button. Let's have our header, learning how to style CSS buttons. Learn how to style with CSS. So we have a first of all, we'll be styling our buttons, giving it a background color, Our button should be something like this. Button. I'll give it a class of BG green. Let's use a camel casing here. BG green as background green. Then we have multiple of this, and then we'll be changing the classes. BG red, BG orange, and BG white. Then let's take a look at this, and you see how the button is. It's supposed to be red. This will be orange, and this will be white. Let's take a look at this in the browser. Supposed to, and the point is here, over here, and CSS buttons. Okay, so you can see how unstyled and somehow looking the button is. So let's add our styling and see the difference, look and beauty it will give to it. So style, and let me copy this, paste this, then give it a background color, of background color of green. Let me copy this. 1, 2. We have 4 here. So background color of red, background color of orange, background color of orange, and background color of white. So let's see that. Okay, so you can see it's added a background. Then we also have a way of increasing the size of a button. So we have a font size we'll be applying to all of this. A font size, we can increase the button size. So we can, let's say we can make it to be, we can make the green to be 2 EM. Let's check that out. Okay, so our button is now bigger. So we'll be adding different sizes. Let's add different sizes to each of the button. Let's say 2.5. Let me add 1.5 here, so that the ladder will be 2.0. Oops. This should be 2, and this should be 2.5, and the last one should be 3. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so you can see we have our biggest button here, and then let's make it to look more better. And you can see here that the button has a border, so let's remove those border. The border should be on set, border on set. Let me check this out. Okay, so you can see our border is no more here, it's no longer here. So let's apply the style to all of them. And here, and also here. Okay. Let me give the body of this let me give the body a background. Body. Let me add a black background color of should I add a gray? Okay, so you can see now green, red, orange, and white. So I can be able to style it more further. Like, you can also add a border radius. Border radius is used to make the edges to be curved, to be rounded. So cool. We use border radius, and for the border radius, we're adding it to all the 4 edges, 12px. Okay, so, and this is being curved, so let's add it to other ones and give it a different pixels. I'll be giving this a 20. I'm giving this a 10. Let me check a look. Okay, let's give it different border radius. Now I'll give this a 5. Let's take a look. Okay, so this is now curved as well, and then I'll give it a 15 pixels. Okay, so you can see the button looks more better, more stylish. You can also add a padding so that it will have more spaces in between the text. So padding could have a 5px for all. So you can see you can add a padding to each of the buttons as well. Okay, the padding is what makes it to move now. So, okay, we could also have add a color if we wish to have change the color of our this. So I could eventually change this to maybe gray. I don't know how it's going to look, but let's see. Okay, so you can also add your own color. So for this, I will be adding a white color to each of them. Color will be white. You can also make the text to be centered as well. Text decoration, whichever styling that you want it to be, you can just give it. Okay, so let's increase our padding. Let me give our padding top and bottom should be 5, but the left and right should be 10 pixels. Also that 5. Padding 10 and 5. It's supposed to be 5 and 10 pixels. Okay. I still want this to be okay. Sorry, I only added it here. That's why I was checking others. Padding should be 5 pixels. Okay, so I only wanted this to move a little bit, so we can see it. We can also add we'll be adding a margin, or let's also have another button that will style. We could add a border color to it by removing this border. Let me comment off this border for the red and add a border color, and the color should be white, 1 pixel, 1 pixel white, solid white. Let's take a look. Okay, so you can see then let me make it to look more okay. Let me edit it black or a gray. Okay, that's my border. You can also give border to all this by removing the border none. This is supposed to be border none and not border on set. So border none. Okay, and we can also make the text within this to be centered. Text, using the text align property, text align to be centered, or justify, whichever one that you want. So you can also add an effect that whenever we whenever we mouse over this button, it should change the background color, or add a padding, or add a border, add the border back. So we also have you can also add a cursor pointer, which we make when we mouse over the button. The pointer here, this pointer moving now, will be like a human hand. So let's also do that before we go to the next. Let me add a cursor. A cursor, pointer. So whenever I go, you can see it now changes, but others are just the same way. So let me add it to the other buttons. So when I hover, you see, and let me add the hover effect now. Let me add it for the BG white and BG orange. BG white, and also let me add different ones. Hover and hover. This is a studio element. Let me change the background color. Background color. It's having a white. Let me change it to orange. And then let me copy this. And let me change the orange to white. orange on hover to white background on hover. So let's take a look at this. Let me refresh. Sorry, I forgot to change the color as well. So when I hover over this, the color should be white, and when I hover over the white, the color should be gray, or if not, you could add a dark. Okay, so when I hover over the orange now, it changes color, and when I hover over this, it changes to orange. So, and that's it. We could also use a transition duration to specify the hover effect. Transition duration, let's set it to 0.5 seconds. It will control the on hover effect. So 5 seconds. I don't know if you noticed the difference between the time it used to make. And let's remove it and check. And refreshed. It seems like when we remove the transition duration, it appears within a quick time. So always add the transition duration to control your hover property. So, and we also want to see how to group buttons. The button grouping can be useful when we want to have a navigation. So in order to group buttons, we can add a float property. Float property to all of the button. So float to the left. And let me see that. Actually floated. It seems like it's moving up. So float left, float left, float left. Let me also add a float left here. Let me take a look at that. Probably since our buttons are not equal, doesn't have an equal font size, it will still be moving. Well, let me continue with the float left, and I will comment of the font size, and we will see how the button groups work. Button groups is just to join a group of buttons together. So let me find all the font size and comment it. So as you can see, the buttons are being grouped together. Just that the border radius also. Sorry, border radius. Let me comment that up for us to see. Okay, and then you can see it's now being grouped together. Each one also has its own button. So the button group can be useful when you want to create a navigation. And we can also add our border here, just like it is being displayed here. So that's it. I'll comment what I did, and I will remove all the floats. I will comment it off. Okay, so we are back. We can also make our button to be disabled, and also we can also add a cursor of not allowed. So let's add by using an opacity CSS property opacity 0.5. Let me see if it looks like disabled. Okay, so it's not. It looks disabled. 0.6. Okay, and then we can add change the cursor pointer to not allowed. Not allowed, so it shouldn't be clicked on. You can see for this we have a cursor pointer, for this we didn't have. So that's it, guys. We also have other ways of styling our button. We can add a box shadow. We can add a box shadow to be able to have a horizontal shadow and a vertical shadow applied to the buttons. So let's see if we could do that quickly. Add a box shadow. Let me see the one that we are applying the box shadow to, and then let me change this to white. Let me change it back to white. Oh, sorry, let me remove it entirely. Comment that off, then refresh, and I'll be adding a box shadow to the orange and red. Let me see the box shadow here. Box shadow. The box shadow should have the vertical to be 10 pixels. The horizontal should be 12 pixels, and we have a blur. We will also make it blur, adding it 4 pixels as well. And then let's make it a little bit transparent by using an RGB here. So let's check this. As our box shadow, this should be 0. It should also be set to 0, 0, and let's have a 0.5 here. And for our blur, we won't be having a blur here, 0, and we also won't be having a horizontal. It won't be too, it will be very light. Okay, so you see we have our shadow here. Let me reduce that to 5px. Let me check that. Okay, this should be 0.1. Okay, let me add back, see if we can add a blur, 5px. I don't know, sir. At least now we can see our box shadow here. Okay, so that's it, guys. That's much on CSS buttons. You could also apply an animation on the CSS button, but I think this is the much we could take here. Thanks for watching.